In this lesson, we'll start our IKFK rig for the creature's neck. So in the scene file, I've tweaked the weighting of Rexy. Remember, we just want to take our time, make sure to add some animation, and most importantly, we want to block in our weight. It's very easy to just jump in and start smoothing out our weighting. But the problem is we don't quite know exactly where each point has been weighted or where each point is receiving its weight. It might be by a bone that we would never expect. That's why it's a good idea to block in our weight with 100%. That way we can choose exactly how those points get smoothed out. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into this lesson. What we'll do is press F3 so we can go to wireframe mode. We'll also head over to Tools, Manage Layers, and we'll make sure our model is frozen. Alright, so here's how the IKFK system is going to work. We're going to create two more neck chains. One will be for our IK system and the other for our FK system. And then we'll create orientation constraints and we'll tie our original chain to those chains using those constraints. So from there, it's just a matter of setting up a few controls for IK and FK and also setting up a switch to switch back and forth between the two modes. So let's go ahead and get this started. We'll grab each of our neck bones all the way down to the nub. Now with all of these selected, let's go ahead and press Ctrl V. We'll clone them as copies. Now let's go ahead and resize this chain. We'll head over to our listener window and we'll use that same basic Mac script. That's going to be $.width. We'll have this equal to about 1.5. Since our chain's width and height is about 1, we'll increase it a little bit more so we can select between the two. We'll do the same thing for the height. That's $.height. We'll have that equal to the same. Alright, great. So if we were to minimize our listener window and take a look, there's our chain. The beautiful thing is, since we've already frozen the transforms of these objects and we already have them stored in our skeleton layer, that's the case for these duplicated bones as well. We might want to refresh our nub just for cleanliness, so we could always go ahead and get rid of that nub object, grab its root bone, the bone before it. We'll head back to our bone tools and we'll choose Create End. Alright, so from here, we just want to go ahead and freeze our transforms on this object. And then we can make sure it's stored in our skeleton layer. Great. Even though the nub doesn't necessarily get used, it's always a good idea to make sure it's as clean as possible just in case. We never want to be closed-minded with rigging. We want to explore all options. Let's go ahead and rename this chain. We could always use the naming convention of BNDRV for bone driver, and then we'll indicate that this is our FK chain by adding that as our suffix. So here's the naming convention we'll go with. Selecting our root bone, neck A, that's going to be BNDRV neck A underscore FK 01. Now if we added these bones before skinning, you might wonder, well, why use BN when we use BN for the skin joints? Well, keep in mind that when we search for those skin joints after adding the skin modifier, that would be BN underscore, so we don't have to worry about adding it here. Sounds simple enough, but I just wanted to make that very clear. Alright, so we'll go ahead and copy the name, and we'll use that for the other bone objects. So we'll just go ahead and paste. And this will be neck B. So since we get the idea, I'll go ahead and pause the video and take care of the other bone objects. Alrighty, so now that these have been renamed, we can go ahead and actually color code this chain. Again, that will just help to make sure we are selecting the right chain when we go ahead and set up our constraints and controls. So we're going to grab all of our new bone objects, and we'll head back over to our bone tools. So from here, we can go ahead and work with bone coloring. We can use our gradient tool if we'd like. So we can have a start color of about, let's say, orange. We could always work with that, which is okay. And our end color could be, let's say, yellow. Alright, so from here, we'll go ahead and choose OK. When we choose Apply Gradient and we deselect, you can see now this chain has been color coded. Alright, so that'll be very helpful for us. Let's go ahead and grab our original bones again, and we're going to create another chain. Alright, so with all four selected, we'll press Ctrl V. make them copies. Let's go back to our listener window, and instead of 1.5, we'll go ahead and work with 2. So there's the width, and there's the height. Alright, great. Again, we can go ahead and get rid of the nub object and create a brand new one. From there, we'll go through and rename these bone objects. So instead of _fk as our prefix, we'll go ahead and work with ik. So I'll go ahead and pause the video and get these renamed. I'll also go ahead and freeze transforms on the nub object and then make sure it's stored in the skeleton layer. Okay, so our next step is to go ahead and color code this chain. Then once we're done, we can go ahead and set up our orientation constraint. So let's go ahead and grab all 4 bone objects. For our start color, we could always work with a lighter blue. Not too light. Don't want it to conflict with the wireframe color, but we want to make sure it's easy to select on this dark background. And then for our end color, we could always work with, let's say, green. Alright, so we'll now go ahead and choose OK, apply gradient. Very nice. Okay, so let's say we go ahead and set up our orientation constraints to finish up this lesson. Here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and constrain to FK first and then IK. So what we do is go ahead and grab our original bone object, that's BN neck A, the one that's skinned, and we'll head over to Animation Constraints. We'll grab our Orientation Constraint. Again, this is another tool I've added to my Animate Quad menu. Let's go ahead and click on our FK bone. We'll go to our rotation list. We'll go ahead and scroll down. And all we need to do now is go ahead and choose Add Orientation Target and then select the IK bone. Once we've done that, we'll go ahead and right-click to exit Add Orientation Target mode. And you can see both of our weights have been applied. So as we start to grab either bone from either FK or IK, you can see we're starting to get this averaging effect. That's exactly what we should have right now. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other bone objects. Again, we simply go in, we grab the skinned bone object, we'll head over to our orientation constraint, we'll connect it to FK first, then we can go ahead and scroll down, we'll choose Add Orientation Target, and then select the IK bone. So simple enough. I'll go ahead and leave the other two up to you, and in the next lesson we'll start to work on some FK controls.